In this video, I'm going to be talking about the seasons of life and whether or not you need to suffer through the first half of your life to achieve success in the last half, and if that's the best approach. So, a lot of students watch my videos, they're trying to improve in their career. Now, why should you listen to me? Well, I don't have the secret answers. I don't think anyone does, but I have pondered this question and seen a lot, and I mean a lot of different case studies and examples in real life. I've talked to many people in real life who are now in med school or doctors or financially successful, who were maybe not as popular or successful in their first half. And I've talked to a bunch, and I've observed and talked to a bunch of people who have different philosophies on this. Even studied hundreds, if not thousands, of successful people over the last 10 years in interviews, real life talks that they've had, and podcasts, books, and so forth. So let's just get down into it. What are the seasons of life, and what is the right approach? Well, seasons of life are like, they can be described in different ways and they have different categorizations, but one way would be from the James Clear model. James Clear is a top self-development blogger, and he says there's like, 4 major seasons of life. One is for growth, and then another is for, kind of giving back. Another is for family. And that's how he categorizes it. You also have Ray Dalio, a billionaire hedge fund manager, who says, there's a season for kind of learning and growing, and then there's a season for kind of giving back and teaching others, since you're kind of about to die and like you're trying to give back. So there's different ways of categorizing life, but there's these different seasons. And one philosophy that some, not all, but many people in the Asian American culture they get from their immigrant parents is that you need to suffer for the first half of your life or first quarter, and you just need to work hard, and it's gonna suck, and it's gonna be really bad, but then you'll get good grades, you'll go to a good college, and then you'll get a great job as a lawyer, doctor, engineer, programmer, make a lot of money, and you'll be happy for the rest of your life. Now, there are business examples of how this can be successful. Jack Ma, when he was starting Alibaba, and it was a big effort to beat the giant that was eBay, that was trying to take over in China, he told his employees, this year's going to be horrible, the next year's going to be even worse, but the future is going to be so bountiful and plentiful. So he's basically telling his employees, you got to suffer now, you got to suffer even more, but then it'll be all worth it one day. So, think about that. That's definitely one way of going about it. And when I was a kid, I thought, this is it. Simple, makes sense. But as I got older, it got more nuanced as I saw more perspectives from Warren Buffett, from all sorts of people who had gone through their life. I've talked to a lot of people and I've heard stories of people who have gone to their high school or college reunion. Maybe this was 5 years later, 10 years later, some even 20, 30, 40 years later. And yes, you do get a lot of that more stereotypical thing where some of the people who peaked in high school are maybe not as financially successful or handsome or muscular or really have their life together as they did in high school. And whereas, some of the more nerdy people, they went on to be very financially successful, and all of a sudden, man, they're athletic, they're well-groomed, they're fashionable, they're confident, they're charismatic. It's like, what happened? They were nerdy and shy. Well, maybe they just started to invest, and they were slow growers, and over time, they had the right mentality to kind of build until they succeeded, and they were willing to suffer and play the slow game, whereas maybe some of those in high school, just by natural talent and luck, they were pretty handsome and good looking and athletic and charismatic, but because they didn't have that growth mindset, they couldn't build off that. That's just part of the results though. Sometimes there's all sorts of varying differences that really make you think, is that the best advice? For example, you have those people who are rich, but they hate their job. or they go back to their high school or college reunion, and they're not as successful, and they're still not, like, something's still a little off about them. Their social skills are kind of off. They're really kind of weird, or they're still kind of shy, and you can tell like they still haven't figured out how to groom themselves right, and their clothes are all ill-fitting and stuff, but they have a middle management job that makes them a pretty decent amount of money. So, you know, there's variances like that. And yeah, you can even have the guy who was maybe, you know, popular in high school, and now they're not rich, but they have a, you know, decent job. They're still, you know, happy, and they have a great family, great partner, even children. And sure, they're not like millionaires, but they're happier than that guy who, you know, suffered a lot in school and maybe makes multiple six figures but hates his job, or like really still doesn't have parts of his life together. Maybe he's still weird, or he's still single. So there's hundreds of variances, and it does make you think, for any of these high school kids or college kids out there, which way is the best? And I think if I were to give an answer, I would say the answer is enjoy every single part of your life as much as you can. But of course, plan for the future, plan long term as well. I don't think those things have to be mutually exclusive. Take Ken Jeong. He said in a Stephen Colbert interview that, yeah, for the first quarter of his life, all he wanted to do was get into a good college, and that was it. But he didn't. He also said that he felt he could also have a lot of fun along the way. So think about that. Do you really need to suffer as much as you have? I know there's a lot of students trying to improve watching this video. Do you really need to suffer and not enjoy your first half as much as you can? Can you still build for the future and enjoy it more than you did? I think I definitely could have. Not so much that I have a severe regret or anything, but yeah, there's definitely like this mentality, because I had that suffer mentality, that, you know, I probably could have had more fun, you know, maybe you could study, put on some good music, you know, have some friends around, study with them, have a good time while doing this as well. Maybe crack a few jokes. It doesn't have to be serious and somber all the time. So I think that's a big part of it. There's a lot of these songs that I really jive with, and I, you know, when I heard them, I really believed in the philosophy of them, but I never really fully took action on them. These songs were like Miley Cyrus's "The Climb" or Sheryl Crow's "Soak Up the Sun." Both of these songs really talk about how the happiness, the joy comes from the journey, the now. Even if you're not, if you're broke, if you're poor, you can still have a lot of fun now and happiness now. You don't have to wait until, you know, you reach the end of the destination, the top of the mountain where all the money is. And as I've studied positive psychology and what the science of happiness tells us, even all that money and happiness and fame doesn't actually help you as much as you think. We often get used to it and take it for granted really quickly, and we resume to our base levels of happiness, which is crazy. It's called hedonic adaptation. So, you know, as you start to do well in school and you start to build for your future, your career, maybe even your business, think about, what do you really want out of life? What really matters to you? For some, it's a happy family. For some, it's actually having a good grasp of your happiness now and later. And, you know, that may not come from millions. That may just come from having a job you love. And I want to point to another piece of evidence. Warren Buffett, you know, he's asked this a lot, you know. He's asked about passion and career, and he says, you know, you got to find your passion. You know, you have to do something that you would love, even if you weren't paid for it. And that's what what's built his success, and that's what he tells his children and so forth. And he also says, you know, he met this business school student once, and the student was telling him all about all these years of experience he was trying to get at this firm and then this Wall Street firm, and all of it was to build more and more years of experience so that one day he would have a job that he would love. And Warren Buffett looked at him like he was kind of crazy, because he's like, no, that's not the right way of doing it. You know, he never held back. He always did what he enjoyed right now. He found a job that he liked right now. And he just felt like, he makes a little joke about it. It's a very famous joke. He says, that's like saving sex for old age. So it's like, you know, you're waiting until you're almost dead to enjoy something that you would have enjoyed more in real life. And I think part of the reason people are maybe hesitant to this is because they kind of group enjoying and having fun now as slacking off. You know, doing hard drugs, partying, drinking alcohol, wasting a bunch of time playing video games. All of these kind of like unproductive activities that really never get you anywhere in life. And while that is definitely something you need to be cautious of, that is not something you need to do. You need to do to have fun. You can have fun now without resorting to like deleterious activities that negatively affect you. Find a, you know, once you get into college, you can find a major that really sparks you up. You can learn about different crafts. You can figure out different things that you enjoy. Nowadays, so many people are starting YouTube channels around what they love, whether that's art or music, and they're loving the process. They're building for the future, and some of them have made a lot of money from it. So it doesn't have to be something where it's unproductive either. So think about that. I think it definitely gets a little complicated, but in terms of suffering now, you know, even Gary Vaynerchuk, famous entrepreneur, you know, he said, while he does talk a lot about eating the dirt and grinding and, you know, bleeding, at the same time, behind that, he loves what he does. So despite all that grinding and what seems like suffering, he has chosen something that he really truly enjoys, that he would do even if he wasn't paid for it. So because of that, is he really suffering as much as, you know, you interpret suffering? So don't go into something like, oh, I gotta do this, I hate it, I don't want to do this. And especially if the end result is something you don't want to do either, like be a doctor or something. Not saying that I don't like doctors. I have a lot of respect and love for doctors, and some doctors love their jobs. I'm just saying that as an example. So, you know, even with Gary, he did have a season of life of suffering, which was in school. You know, he hated school. People called him lazy while he was in school because he didn't work hard. But now look at him. He's often known as one of the hardest workers, and you find out it's because he hated school, but he found entrepreneurship, which he really loved, and that love allowed him to kind of build into something where he could work really hard. And so there is that season, especially early on when you're still a kid, where there's not much you can change because you're forced to go to school, and that may be suffering for some of the entrepreneurial folks. But even then, I think there's definitely areas where you can kind of build and enjoy. Maybe it's outside of school, as many entrepreneurs do. Outside of school, that's their time to build a side business. And now with the internet, there's so many different things like drop shipping and Amazon FBA, stuff that I don't even understand, but you can do now. And so I think it's not a conclusive answer because it's complicated. It's not always easy to enjoy now, but I still think, in conclusion, the best way is to, of course, suffer in the sense of putting in the hard work and effort and the grind that isn't always fun because it's hard work. Maybe going to the gym every day, studying every day. But in that, sometimes you can find the fun out of how much you're getting ahead of others. And along the way, you know, make things fun. Don't buy into the mentality like I did that you had to just suffer through the first half of your life and just hate it all the time, or just think that this is part of the process. While some of that may be true, you may be able to find a lot of love in some ways or fun in other ways. Maybe it's as something as small as putting on good music, or cutting out time of the day where you're building a YouTube channel or other craft. Maybe it's a painting or drawing, whatever it is. And of course, build for the future and have fun in productive ways now. So that's just my philosophy, my 2 cents. I'm not saying it's, you know, the de facto way and end all be all, but that's just my current thoughts based on what I've learned over the years. Hopefully it kind of helps you along. I think it will. If I had to tell my younger self something, I think that would help him, because, you know, there's definitely times where he focused a lot more on just you know, grinding through school, and yeah, you can have some more fun. So there you go.